Imagine a country forged from over 17,000 islands, where emerald volcanoes pierce the sky and turquoise waters teem with life. This is Indonesia, the world's largest archipelago, stretching across Southeast Asia like a string of shimmering jewels. From the misty highlands of Lombok to the bustling streets of Jakarta, Indonesia is a land of breathtaking diversity. Its islands, scattered across the equator, boast a kaleidoscope of landscapes, cultures, and traditions. Indonesia is a melting pot of over 300 distinct ethnic groups, each with its own unique language, customs and beliefs. The largest of these is the Javanese, known for their intricate batik textiles and graceful gamelan music. In Bali, Hinduism flourishes, infusing daily life with colourful ceremonies and ancient rituals. The Toraja people of Sulawesi honour their ancestors with elaborate funeral rites, while the Dayak of Kalimantan maintain their traditional longhouses and intricate tattoos. This cultural diversity is a source of immense pride for Indonesians, a testament to their history as a crossroads of civilizations. From the earliest times, Indonesia has been a magnet for traders and travellers, drawn by the allure of its spices, textiles and precious metals. Long before European powers arrived, Indonesia was home to powerful empires that controlled vast maritime networks and commanded the spice trade. One of the earliest and most influential was Srivijaya, a maritime power that arose in the 7th century. Centered in Sumatra, Srivijaya controlled the vital sea lanes through the Strait of Malacca, amassing vast wealth. Following Srivijaya's decline, the Majapahit Empire rose to prominence in the 14th century, centered on Java. Under Hayam Wuruk and his Prime Minister Gajah Mada, Majapahit experienced a golden age of art, literature and military expansion. The allure of Indonesia's spices, particularly cloves, nutmeg and mace, proved irresistible to European powers in the 16th century. The Portuguese were the first to arrive, establishing a foothold in Malacca in 1511. The Dutch, through their powerful East India Company, VOC, gradually gained dominance in the 17th century. Employing military might and shrewd diplomacy, the VOC established trading posts and expanded their control over the spice trade. The Dutch sought to monopolize the production and distribution of spices, imposing strict regulations on local farmers. Long before European cannons echoed across the Indonesian archipelago, ancient kingdoms rose and fell, leaving behind whispers of their grandeur. The Indonesian islands, strategically positioned at the crossroads of Asia's maritime trade routes, became fertile ground for powerful empires. These weren't empires built solely on military might, but on a sophisticated understanding of the seas, the winds, and the art of trade. Maritime traders, skilled navigators guided by the stars, connected the far-flung islands of the archipelago and ventured beyond. These early kingdoms left behind tantalizing glimpses into their sophisticated societies, laying the foundation. As Srivijaya's grip on the region waned, a new power emerged from the fertile plains of Java. The Majapahit Empire, founded in the late 13th century, united much of the Indonesian archipelago under its rule. The reign of Hayam Wuruk, who ascended the throne in 1350, marked the zenith of Majapahit's power. Guided by his Prime Minister, Gajah Mada, Majapahit brought Bali, Sumatra, parts of Borneo and even the Malay Peninsula under its control. The empire's golden age witnessed a flowering of art, literature and architecture, leaving a lasting cultural legacy. The rise and fall of empires like Srivijaya and Majapahit were linked to the ebb and flow of trade. Indonesia's strategic location at the heart of the ancient maritime Silk Road made it a melting pot of cultures and a hub for the exchange of goods and ideas. From the bustling ports of Sumatra to the spice-laden markets of Java, the archipelago pulsed with the energy of commerce. Chinese junks, Arab dhows and Indian vessels added to the vibrant tapestry of trade. These encounters enriched Indonesian culture, creating a vibrant fusion of indigenous traditions and foreign influences. While the empires of Srivijaya and Majapahit dominated ancient Indonesia, a subtle shift was underway. The arrival of Islam, brought by traders from the Middle East and India, marked a turning point in Indonesian history. Islam resonated deeply with the common people, spreading from port to port, carried by traders and Sufi mystics. As the 15th century dawned, Islamic sultanates began to emerge, challenging the dominance of the waning Majapahit Empire. The arrival of European powers in the 16th century further complicated the tales of islands overflowing with spices ignited the imaginations and ambitions of European powers. The Portuguese, spearheaded by Vasco da Gama's voyage, were the first to arrive, establishing a toehold in Malacca in 1511. Their presence was met with fierce resistance from local rulers and rival European powers. The Spanish, having staked their claim in the Americas, were not far behind, leading to clashes with the Portuguese. This set the stage for a century of intense rivalry over the Spice Islands. As the 17th century dawned, the Dutch East India Company, VOC, emerged, destined to eclipse both the Portuguese and the Spanish. Established in 1602, the VOC was granted a trade monopoly by the Dutch government, along with powers to wage war, build forts, and negotiate treaties. The VOC's strategy was as ruthless as it was effective, determined to establish total dominance. They built fortresses, raised armies, and deployed a powerful fleet to enforce their will upon the archipelago. Local rulers who resisted were often met with brutal force, their kingdoms absorbed into the expanding Dutch East Indies. The Dutch East India Company's grip on the archipelago tightened with each passing decade. Their strategy involved a calculated dismantling of existing power structures and the imposition of a new economic order. The VOC's most effective tactic was the Hongi Tochta, brutal raids on spice-producing islands. Villages were torched, crops destroyed, and anyone caught trading spices outside the company's control faced harsh punishments. The forced cultivation system, known as cultuurstelsel, enriched the company's coffers, but plunged many Indonesians into poverty and dependence. Life under the company's shadow, economic and social impacts. The Dutch East India Company's presence cast a long shadow over the Indonesian archipelago. While the company's coffers overflowed with the profits from the spice trade, the lives of ordinary Indonesians were irrevocably transformed, often for the worse. The once thriving inter-island trade networks were disrupted, local economies were undermined, and traditional power structures were upended. The forced cultivation of cash crops led to widespread hardship. Farmers, bound by strict quotas and facing harsh penalties for failing to meet them, were left with little land or resources to grow food for their families. Famine stalked the land, and diseases, exacerbated by malnutrition and poor sanitation, spread like wildfire. The social fabric of Indonesian society began to fray under the strain of colonial exploitation. Yet amidst the hardship and oppression, seeds of resistance began to sprout. Local rulers, stripped of their power and prestige, chafed under the yoke of Dutch rule. Religious leaders, witnessing the erosion of traditional values and the suffering of their communities, began to preach against the injustices of colonialism. A nascent sense of Indonesian identity, forged in the crucible of shared oppression, began to emerge, laying the groundwork for future struggles against colonial rule. The long road to resistance. The Dutch East India Company's reign was not without its cracks. Brutal methods and relentless pursuit of profit sowed discontent among the Indonesian people. Uprisings erupted sporadically, a testament to the enduring spirit of resistance. In Java, Prince Diponegoro led a fierce rebellion in 1825. The Java War lasted 5 years, costing thousands of lives. Diponegoro's rebellion became a potent symbol of Indonesian resistance. In Aceh, resistance took on a fierce and protracted form. The Acehnese waged a relentless guerrilla war for decades. The Aceh War dragged on for almost 30 years, becoming one of the bloodiest conflicts. These uprisings demonstrated growing resentment and the emergence of a nationalist consciousness. The desire for independence would eventually culminate in a struggle that shook the Dutch Empire. The winds of change. A new century, a new spirit. As the 19th century gave way to the 20th, a profound shift was underway in the Indonesian archipelago. The seeds of nationalism, sown during centuries of resistance against Dutch colonialism, began to sprout, nourished by a confluence of internal and external factors. A new generation of Indonesian intellectuals, educated in Western schools but increasingly disillusioned with the inequalities of colonial rule, emerged as vocal proponents of self-determination. The Dutch East Indies, once viewed as a static backwater in the Dutch Empire, was awakening. Newspapers and magazines, published in both Malay and Dutch, carried the ideas of liberty, equality and national consciousness to a wider audience. Students, gathering in clandestine study groups, debated the merits of independence and the need for a united Indonesian identity to transcend the archipelago's ethnic and religious diversity. The winds of change blowing across the globe fanned the flames of Indonesian nationalism. Japan's stunning victory over Russia in 1905 shattered the myth of European invincibility, demonstrating that even the mightiest colonial powers could be challenged and defeated. The rise of nationalist movements in India, China and elsewhere in Asia further emboldened Indonesian activists, who saw in these struggles a reflection of their own aspirations for freedom. The rise of nationalism, from Budi Utomo to a nation's dream. In 1908, Budi Utomo marked a watershed moment in Indonesian nationalism, promoting education, culture and social progress. Its message of unity and self-reliance inspired similar organizations across the archipelago. New voices emerged, each with a different vision for Indonesia's future. Sarekat Islam mobilized masses through religious and nationalist appeals. The Indonesian Communist Party, founded in 1920, advocated for radical societal transformation. Despite differences, all nationalist groups aimed to end Dutch colonial rule. They organized rallies, published newspapers, and established schools to promote independence. Dutch authorities grew alarmed by the movement's influence on students, intellectuals, and urban workers. Repression followed, with leaders imprisoned, newspapers censored, and organizations banned. These actions only galvanized the nationalist cause, strengthening their resolve. Shadows over the Indies. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 cast a long shadow over the Dutch East Indies. The Dutch East Indies Army, largely composed of Indonesian conscripts, was placed on high alert. The war also brought about profound economic disruptions. Trade with Europe was severely curtailed by German U-boat attacks. Prices for essential goods soared, leading to hardship for ordinary Indonesians. The war fueled nationalist aspirations in the colonies. Indonesian activists pressed for greater autonomy within the Dutch Empire. The Dutch government resisted significant political reforms. Promising autonomy post-war, the Dutch tightened their grip on power. Economic hardships and Dutch intransigence fueled nationalist sentiments. The Japanese interlude, a forced awakening. World War II's outbreak in 1939 shifted Asia's power balance. Japan seized Southeast Asia's resources, including oil, rubber and tin. In December 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor and invaded Southeast Asia. The Dutch were swiftly defeated by the Japanese military. On March 8, 1942, the Dutch East Indies surrendered, ending Dutch rule. The occupation hastened Indonesia's march towards independence. A nation forged in fire. As World War II drew to a close, Japan's fortunes waned. The tide of the war had turned, and Allied forces were closing in on Japan's home islands. The Japanese promised to grant the archipelago independence. Japan surrendered to the Allies on August 15, 1945. Seizing this opportunity, Sukarno and Muhammad Hatta declared Indonesia's independence on August 17, 1945. This bold proclamation ignited national pride and ushered in a new era. The Dutch returned to Indonesia, unwilling to relinquish their former colony. A bitter struggle for independence, known as the Indonesian National Revolution, followed. The Indonesian people waged a determined resistance. The international community exerted pressure on the Dutch to relinquish their colonial ambitions. On August 17, 1945, a new star emerged on the world map, the Republic of Indonesia. After centuries of colonial rule, the Indonesian people had finally thrown off the shackles of oppression and claimed their birthright to freedom. The joy that swept across the archipelago was electrifying, a testament to the indomitable spirit of a nation forged in the crucible of struggle. Yet the euphoria of independence was tempered by the sobering realities that lay ahead. The newly born nation faced a daunting array of challenges, rebuilding a war-torn economy, forging national unity from a patchwork of diverse ethnicities and religions, and navigating the treacherous waters of Cold War geopolitics. The Dutch, having been unceremoniously ejected from their former colony, were in no mood to accept defeat gracefully. Backed by British forces and fueled by a potent mix of imperial hubris and economic self-interest, the Dutch launched a series of military campaigns aimed at reasserting control over the archipelago. The Indonesian people, exhausted but undeterred, rose to the challenge, engaging in a fierce guerrilla war that dragged on for 4 long years. From the ashes of revolution emerged Sukarno, the charismatic leader who captured the imagination of the Indonesian people. His unwavering belief in their destiny as a great nation. Elected as Indonesia's first president, Sukarno embarked on an ambitious program of nation-building. His vision, encapsulated in Pancasila, balanced national unity with social justice. However, his rule was marked by growing authoritarianism and political instability. The year 1965 marked a turning point in Indonesian history. A failed coup attempt blamed on the Indonesian Communist Party triggered a wave of anti-communist violence that swept across the archipelago, leaving hundreds of thousands dead and paving the way for the rise of General Suharto. Suharto, a staunch anti-communist and a master of political maneuvering, consolidated his power in the aftermath of the coup, sidelining Sukarno and establishing a new regime known as the New Order. Promising stability, order and economic development, Suharto embarked on a systematic campaign to eradicate communist influence and consolidate his grip on power. Under Suharto's iron-fisted rule, Indonesia experienced a period of remarkable economic growth. Foreign investment poured in, fueled by Indonesia's vast natural resources and Suharto's pro-business policies. The economy grew at an unprecedented rate, lifting millions out of poverty and transforming Indonesia into one of Southeast Asia's economic powerhouses. However, this economic progress came at a heavy price. Suharto's regime was characterized by widespread human rights abuses, rampant corruption, and the suppression of political dissent. Opposition parties were banned, the press was heavily censored, and critics of the regime were silenced through intimidation, imprisonment, or disappearance. Reformasi, a nation transformed. The Asian financial crisis of 1997 to 98 exposed the fragility of Indonesia's economic miracle and shook the foundations of Suharto's regime. As the economy went into a tailspin, unemployment soared, prices skyrocketed, and social unrest gripped the nation. Students took to the streets demanding democratic reforms and an end to corruption and nepotism. Faced with mounting pressure from within and outside Indonesia, Suharto, weakened by illness and abandoned by many former allies, resigned in May 1998, ending his 32-year reign. His departure ushered in a new era of Indonesian history known as Reformasi, a period of dramatic political and social transformation. The post-Suharto era has been marked by a remarkable flowering of democracy. Free and fair elections have become the norm, opposition parties have flourished, and freedom of speech and assembly, though still contested, have expanded significantly. Indonesia has undergone a remarkable transformation from one of the world's most repressive regimes to a vibrant, if still flawed, democracy. However, the legacy of Suharto's authoritarian rule continues to cast a long shadow over Indonesian society. Corruption remains endemic, human rights abuses persist, and the military, though formally subservient to civilian rule, continues to wield considerable influence behind the scenes. The unfinished journey, challenges and opportunities. Indonesia today stands at a crossroads, grappling with the challenges and opportunities of a rapidly changing world. The world's most populous Muslim-majority nation, a vast archipelago of staggering diversity and a rising economic power, Indonesia's choices will have profound implications, not only for its own people, but for the wider region and beyond. Maintaining national unity amidst the centrifugal forces of ethnic, religious and regional diversity remains a paramount challenge. The spectre of separatism, particularly in the provinces of Aceh and Papua, continues to test the government's resolve and its ability to address the grievances of marginalized communities. The fight against corruption, a legacy of Suharto's crony capitalism, remains a top priority. Strengthening the rule of law, promoting transparency and accountability, and empowering civil society are essential to building a more just and equitable society. Indonesia's economic success will hinge on its ability to harness its vast human and natural resources, invest in education and infrastructure, and foster innovation and entrepreneurship. Navigating the complexities of globalization, climate change, and technological disruption will require foresight, adaptability, and a commitment to sustainable development. Legacy of resilience. Indonesia's journey from ancient empires to modern independence is a testament to the enduring spirit of its people. Throughout its long and tumultuous history, Indonesia has weathered countless storms, colonial conquests, internal strife, natural disasters, economic crises. Yet it has always emerged, often battered but unbroken, with a renewed sense of purpose and a determination to forge its own destiny. From the ashes of ancient empires rose new kingdoms, each leaving its unique imprint on the archipelago's cultural tapestry. The arrival of Islam, embraced with a fervour that reshaped the spiritual landscape, added another vibrant thread to Indonesia's complex identity. Colonialism, though leaving deep scars, also sowed the seeds of nationalism, uniting diverse peoples under a common banner of resistance. The struggle for independence, a testament to the courage and sacrifice of countless Indonesians, gave birth to a nation determined to chart its own course. The post-independence era, though marked by its own share of turbulence and tragedy, has also witnessed remarkable progress. Democracy, though still a work in progress, has taken root, empowering citizens and fostering a more open and vibrant society. Economic growth, though unevenly distributed, has lifted millions out of poverty and positioned Indonesia as a rising power on the global stage. Navigating the archipelago's future. Indonesia today stands at a crossroads, facing both immense promise and daunting challenges. The world's fourth most populous nation, a vibrant democracy with a young and dynamic population and a rapidly growing economy, Indonesia has the potential to become a major force for good in the 21st century. Realizing this potential, however, will require overcoming significant obstacles. Maintaining national unity amidst the centrifugal forces of ethnic, religious and regional diversity remains a paramount task. Addressing the legacy of past human rights abuses, promoting social justice and equality, and ensuring that the benefits of economic growth are shared more equitably are essential for long-term stability and prosperity. Indonesia's geographical location, at the heart of Southeast Asia and on the front lines of climate change, presents both opportunities and risks. As a vast archipelago with a wealth of natural resources, Indonesia is particularly vulnerable to the impacts of rising sea levels, extreme weather events and deforestation. However, Indonesia can also play a leading role in global efforts to combat climate change, promoting sustainable development and transitioning to a green economy. A tapestry of hope. Despite these challenges, there is a palpable sense of optimism in Indonesia today. A new generation, raised in a more open and democratic society, is eager to embrace the future with hope and determination. They are tech-savvy, globally connected, and acutely aware of the challenges facing their nation. They are also fiercely proud of their Indonesian identity, their heritage, and their culture. Indonesia's greatest strength lies in its people, their resilience, their creativity, their entrepreneurial spirit, and their deep sense of community. It is this spirit that has carried Indonesia through difficult times and will continue to guide its journey in the years to come. The Indonesian story is far from over. It is still being written, each chapter adding to the rich tapestry of this remarkable nation. As Indonesia navigates the complexities of the 21st century, it will continue to inspire the world with its unique blend of cultural richness, democratic values, and unwavering belief in a brighter future. The archipelago of wonders, once a distant outpost on the spice route, has emerged as a beacon of hope, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit to overcome adversity and embrace the promise of a new dawn.